Well, I need you to sit down for this one because number 4 literally has the entire internet screaming, and I'm not even kidding. We're talking about famous men who fell for women way older than them, and I mean way older. Forget a couple years, we're talking gaps that'll make your jaw drop. Some lasted decades, some crashed and burned in the messiest ways possible, and one of them involves Cher at almost 80 still out here, living her best life with a man 40 years younger. The tea is absolutely scalding, and honestly number 6 just fell apart this year after being together for nearly 3 decades. We always hear about older men with younger women, right? That's been normalized forever. Nobody bats an eye, but flip it around and suddenly the internet loses its collective mind. I'm talking 10 years, 20 years, in one case, literally 40 years between them. Some of these relationships have been rock solid, proving everyone wrong. A few are so controversial, people are still fighting in the comments. Honestly, by the end, you're gonna have opinions. The stories are insane, and number 1 literally cost a director his career. Let's dive in.
I used to say, if you don't pay attention to age, it won't pay attention to you, but I kind of didn't buy that, but whatever, it seems to be working.
Starting at number 12 with the absolute wildest gap on this entire list. 40 years. Yeah, you heard that right. Cher and her boyfriend, A.E. Edwards, have a full 4-decade age difference. They met at Paris Fashion Week, and she was 76 while he was 36, which makes him younger than both of her sons. Can you imagine the family dinners where the stepdad is younger than the kids? Of course, the internet exploded. Everyone was side-eyeing his intentions, doing the math, whispering about gold diggers, but Cher fired back with that legendary tweet in all caps that just said, "Love doesn't know math." I mean, iconic behavior, honestly. She told Kelly Clarkson that sure, on paper, it looks ridiculous, but in real life, they just vibe.
Very sweet man, humble, fabulous man.
She said men her age are either intimidated by her or they're not around anymore. But younger guys grew up listening to her music and they don't care if she's loud and outrageous. They actually love that about her. They did break up briefly, but got back together pretty fast. And the rumor mill went crazy, claiming she wants to marry him before her 80th birthday, though her team shut that down real quick. When someone asked her about all the hate, she basically just shrugged and said, whatever. At almost 80, Cher is living her life unbothered and thriving. The 40-year gap is the largest romantic age difference in modern celebrity history, and she genuinely does not care what anyone thinks. But number 11 is almost as wild.
Imagine being in love at my time in my life with somebody such a great artist.
Number 11 drops to 32 years with Sarah Paulson and Holland Taylor. 32 years. That's a whole generation. They actually met way back at a dinner party, and Sarah said Holland was probably the most beautiful woman she'd ever seen. But they were both in relationships, so nothing happened. They just had this moment and went their separate ways. Then 10 years later, they reconnected, and this time, both were single. And here's the best part. Holland slid into Sarah's Twitter DMs. At 72 years old, she made the first move online. A total power play, and I'm here for it. Sarah's been really open about what it's like loving someone so much older. She talks about this awareness that time is precious, which makes every moment feel sharper and more meaningful.
Matters not at all what the gender of the person is. It's very clear that love is love.
That's actually really beautiful when you think about it. They keep separate living spaces even though they're together, which honestly sounds like the dream setup. Independence, but still committed. Holland's 82 now, and Sarah's 50. They're always on red carpets together, and Sarah defends their relationship fiercely anytime someone tries to come for them. She said that following society's rules about who you should love is boring, and she's not interested. The gap is massive, but their connection is intellectual and emotional and completely unshakable. They're probably the most visible celebrated couple in this category, and they're not apologizing to anyone. Number 10 is funding an entire empire, though.
I used to say to Corey all the time when I first started dating him, like, why do you want to date somebody older than you?
Hold on, because number 10 is Corey Gamble and Kris Jenner with a 25-year gap. They met in Ibiza at a birthday party right after Kris's very public split. She was 58, he was 33, and working as Justin Bieber's tour manager at the time. He walked up to her on the dance floor and told her she looked beautiful. That was the spark. At first, everyone, and I mean everyone, assumed this was just a rebound situation, a younger guy enjoying the Kardashian lifestyle while it lasted. The family seemed skeptical on the show. Fans were brutal in the comments. Everyone kept waiting for it to fall apart. But here we are over a decade later, and he's still right there. Corey became this quiet, stabilizing force in that family. If you've watched their show, you know it's constant chaos. Someone's always yelling, there's always a crisis, drama everywhere. And Corey's just in the background, staying calm, managing things, diffusing arguments, being the steady presence reactions nobody expected. Kris has said she's completely done with marriage. She did the big weddings twice, and she's over it. Instead, she calls Corey her forever partner, which honestly feels more meaningful anyway. But number 9 is the most controversial couple on this entire list, and people will not let it go. Number 9, this is the one that breaks the internet every single time it comes up. Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Sam Taylor-Johnson with a 23-year gap. They met on a movie set where Sam was directing and Aaron was the lead actor. He was 18, she was 42, and she was still technically married at the time, though separated. Exactly 1 year after they met, he proposed. They hadn't even kissed yet, according to Aaron. They got married and both changed their last names to Taylor-Johnson. Now they have 2 daughters together, plus Sam has 2 daughters from before, one of whom is only about 11 years younger than Aaron. Just let that sink in for a second. The internet has been absolutely vicious. There are entire viral campaigns claiming he needs to be saved, with thousands of strangers analyzing his body language frame by frame, convinced they see proof that he's trapped. But here's what's actually happening. They've been together for 17 years now, married for 13, raising 4 daughters on a farm. Aaron has turned down huge movie roles to be a stay-at-home dad because he says family comes first. He's said multiple times that all the outside noise doesn't even register for them. Sam's addressed it too, saying people are projecting their own stuff onto their relationship. She was an established artist who'd survived serious health issues twice. He'd been working as an actor since he was a kid. They met as adults who understood each other. They just worked on a major movie together and walked every red carpet looking completely in love. Look, I'm not going to tell you how to feel about this one. The way they met makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and that's valid. But by any measure, they've outlasted most Hollywood marriages. Whether you think it's okay or not, they seem genuinely happy, and they're still going strong. Number 8 is way less controversial, and honestly kind of adorable. Number 8 is Heidi Klum and Tom Kaulitz, with 16 years between them. They met a few years back, and the fact that they're both German is actually a huge part of why it works, according to Heidi. She says they understand each other on this deeper cultural level. Tom's the guitarist for Tokyo Hotel, and there's this funny story about how Heidi actually met his twin brother first on one of her shows. Like the universe was basically setting them up. What makes them different from a lot of couples on this list is they're just obsessed with having fun together. They genuinely seem like best friends who also happen to be married. Their Halloween costumes have become legendary, and I'm not talking about cute matching outfits. Heidi commits to like 10-hour makeup transformations with full prosthetics teams. One year, they both dressed as E.T., and it was genuinely terrifying how realistic it looked. They've done bugs, mythical creatures, all kinds of wild stuff. Tom also stepped right into being a bonus dad to Heidi's 4 kids, and from everything we can see, they love him. There's no weirdness about the age gap, no power struggle drama, just 2 people constantly laughing and enjoying life together. Heidi's 52 now, and Tom's 36. They're inseparable. Sometimes the gap just completely disappears when people are vibing on the same wavelength. But number 7, with almost the exact same age gap, completely different story. And honestly, it's heartbreaking. Number 7 is Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore with 15 years, and girl, this one is rough. They met at a casual dinner. Demi was 40, a total Hollywood icon, and mom of 3. Ashton was 25, wearing trucker hats and hosting Punk'd on MTV. On paper, it made absolutely no sense. But they fell hard, got married, and became the first big celebrity couple to really use social media. This was early Twitter, and they'd post photos to control their own story instead of letting paparazzi do it. Ashton seemed perfect as a bonus dad to Demi's daughters with Bruce Willis. Everything looked like this beautiful, modern blended family. But behind the scenes, it was falling apart. Years later, Demi wrote a memoir, and the details are absolutely devastating. She talked about how she twisted herself into knots trying to be cool enough and young enough for him. She ended up breaking her sobriety after 20 years of being clean. It was a complete spiral. She agreed to situations she really didn't want, including bringing other people into their relationship because she was so scared of losing him. The 15-year gap became this constant source of insecurity, and it doesn't sound like he did anything to make her feel better about it. According to the sources, then came the cheating, multiple women, and here's the part that actually makes me sick. Demi found out about one affair on their wedding anniversary through a Google alert. Like, imagine that.
You got a Google alert?
Yes.
She called him. What did you say to him?
I asked if it was true.
It's your anniversary, and you're reading about your husband cheating in a news article on your phone. They split, and now they don't even speak. Ashton's married to Mila Kunis, who's way closer to his age. Demi is 63 and honestly having this incredible moment right now as a fashion icon. She's fully reclaimed her power, but she's also been really honest about how much that relationship messed with her sense of self-worth, and she's still working through it. All right, if you're hooked on these stories, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe because we've got so much more drama coming. Seriously, Basically, the tea never stops. Number 6 is Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness, with 13 years, and this one genuinely hurts because they were supposed to be the forever couple. They met on an Australian TV show set. Deborra was already established and respected. Hugh was fresh out of drama school, completely unknown, and so intimidated by her that he couldn't even talk to her for like a week straight. Finally, at a dinner party, he worked up the courage to tell her he had a crush on her. He was fully expecting her to laugh or politely reject him. Instead, she took off her sunglasses, looked right at him, and said, "I've got a crush on you too." They got married less than a year later. For 27 years, they were Hollywood's golden couple. They adopted 2 kids after some really painful struggles trying to have biological children. Deborra basically put her whole career on hold to support Hugh becoming Wolverine and this massive global superstar. There were always these rumors floating around about Hugh, but Deborra would shut them down every single time. They seemed completely unbreakable.
After news dropped overnight that Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness are ending their marriage of almost 30 years.
And then last year, they announced they were separating. By this year, the divorce was done. But here's where it gets really messy. Reports started coming out that Hugh had been seeing his Broadway co-star the whole time.
She's amazing, and we are best friends. We share everything.
They did this musical together, and apparently everyone on Broadway knew except Deborra. She was allegedly the last person to find out. People close to her said she felt completely blindsided. The word betrayal got used a lot. One of her friends even said publicly that Deborra's about to have her revenge glow up. Now Hugh and his co-star are together publicly. They're not hiding it anymore. And word is, Deborra is furious that he's just parading this new relationship around their mutual friends like their 27-year marriage meant nothing.
Your wife, it's her birthday as well.
It's her birthday. Yeah.
Now, that must be...
Yeah.
And number 5 is actually really interesting because I included it specifically to make a point about double standards. Number 5 is David Tennant and Georgia Tennant with 13 years. Now wait, you're probably thinking, isn't this list supposed to be about men with older women? And you're right. David is actually older than Georgia, but I put them in here because when you compare them to other couples, the contrast is fascinating. Same exact 13-year gap as Hugh and Deborra. David and Georgia met on Doctor Who, where she played his character's genetically engineered daughter, which is already kind of meta. But it gets better because Georgia is the real-life daughter of another Doctor Who actor. It's like science fiction Inception. They've been married for over a decade now, 5 kids, still going strong. They roast each other on social media in the cutest way. But here's my actual point. David and Georgia have faced basically zero public scrutiny about their age gap. Nobody calls it weird. Nobody wrote think pieces about whether Georgia was too young. No concerned comments, nothing. Meanwhile, Hugh and Deborra had the identical gap and faced decades of speculation and rumors, specifically because she was the older one. The double standard is absolutely wild when you actually look at it side by side. Older man with younger woman? That's just tradition. Nobody cares. Older woman with younger man? Suddenly it's a spectacle that everyone feels entitled to comment on. David and Georgia seem genuinely happy though, so good for them.
We're honored to be here. I should get an award for getting my wife here on time.
Number 4 is Nick Cannon and Mariah Carey with 11 years. And honestly, this one started out like a romantic comedy. Nick had been publicly crushing on Mariah for years. Like he told everyone who would listen that she was his dream woman. They met at an awards show and then reconnected on one of her music video shoots. Things moved insanely fast. Within weeks, he proposed with an engagement ring hidden inside a ring pop candy, which is so perfectly on brand for Mariah's whole vibe. They had this secret wedding, and before they even had the official paperwork done, they both got tattoos. He got her name across his entire back. She got Mrs. Cannon. They were all in. When their twins were born on their actual wedding anniversary, it felt like destiny. The 11-year gap worked because Nick brought this fun, playful energy that balanced out Mariah's very controlled diva image. He was the goofy dad. She was the glamorous queen. They even renewed their vows every single year with these increasingly over-the-top ceremonies. One of them was at Disneyland, and they literally shut down the entire park. But it didn't last. They got divorced. Now here's where it gets interesting. After they split, Nick went on to have 12 children total with different women. 12. Yet he still to this day calls Mariah the love of his life. Mariah never got remarried. She seems perfectly happy being single and focused on her kids and her career. But the best part? They're actually still really close. They spend holidays together for their twins who are teenagers now. They support each other publicly. There's zero bitterness or drama. It's honestly one of the healthiest celebrity divorces ever. The age gap worked until it didn't, but at least they kept everything respectful for their kids. Number 3 breaks my heart a little because they really did seem perfect together.
Love the Joker. Oh my gosh, I watched Joker 4 times. Yeah. I could have done that if...
Number 3 is Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet with 12 years. And this one really felt like a soulmate story. Jason has told this story a million times. He was 8 years old watching this TV show, and he saw Lisa and literally told his mom, "That's the woman I'm gonna marry someday." He's joked that he was basically stalking her his whole life. Years later, mutual friends finally introduced them at a jazz club. He convinced her to give him a ride home, and they ended up at this random diner at like 2 in the morning eating grits. He said the connection felt instant, like coming home. They were together for 17 years, had 2 kids, and raised them in this really bohemian way with no TV, just nature and art and creativity. Lisa had this mystical goddess energy, and Jason always said she made him a better person, that he was kind of a mess before her. But a couple years ago, they announced they were separating, and the divorce is done now. Jason's dating an actress now who's much closer to his age. Lisa has completely disappeared from the public eye. No social media, no interviews, just living her private life. The 12-year gap that used to seem like part of their cosmic connection is now being looked at as maybe part of why they drifted apart. His career absolutely exploded with these huge action movies, and suddenly he's traveling constantly, doing press tours, becoming this massive star. Meanwhile, Lisa wanted to stay home, stay grounded, stay out of the spotlight. Sometimes even the most magical beginning isn't enough when 2 people grow in totally different directions. Still breaks my heart though. And finally, number 2.
Hi, I'm Megan Mullally.
And I'm Nick Offerman.
Number 2 is Megan Mullally and Nick Offerman with 12 years between them. Of everyone on this list, these 2 are like the sanity chapter, the proof that it actually can work long term. They met doing a play together. Megan was already a star. Nick was literally sleeping in a friend's basement. He thought she was completely out of his league and has joked that he was basically a mess that she had to whip into shape. They got married the night before the Emmys in this surprise ceremony. That was over 20 years ago, and they're still together. 0 scandals, no cheating, no drama, just 2 decades of solid partnership. Their secret? They're obsessed with jigsaw puzzles and audiobooks. I'm not kidding. They finish a puzzle and then dress up to recreate whatever picture was on it. They also have this rule that they never spend more than 2 weeks apart, no matter what. Megan jokes that even though Nick is younger, he's always acted like the old man in the relationship. They tour together, work on projects together, genuinely seem like best friends. They're the living proof that when your values align, the age gap becomes completely irrelevant. They're basically the gold standard. But number 1 has the smallest gap on this list and somehow had the biggest drama. Coming in at number 1 with the smallest age gap at just 10 years, but absolutely massive drama, Ritchie and Madonna. They met at someone's fancy estate in England. Madonna was in her very spiritual phase, and Guy was this edgy British film director. She said she fell in love watching him play tennis without a shirt on, which honestly fair. But what really hooked her was that he was completely unimpressed by her fame. He treated her like a normal person with this irreverent British attitude, and after being surrounded by people who worshipped her, she found that irresistible. They had this massive exclusive wedding at a castle in Scotland. For a while, Madonna went full English countryside wife. She started talking with a British accent. It was a whole transformation. But the 10-year gap showed up as this huge clash in what they wanted from life. Guy wanted a traditional setup where his wife would hang out at the local pub and live simply. Madonna was at the peak of her discipline, doing strict diets and spiritual practices. She was not about to become a housewife. Guy later said being married to her was like living in a soap opera, which basically became the defining quote of their whole relationship. Now Guy's been happily remarried for years, living this quiet life in the countryside. Madonna is still Madonna, and her dating life these days involves guys in their 20s and 30s, a complete flip. Some people think Guy was her last attempt at a conventional marriage before she just said forget it and started doing whatever she wanted, and honestly, good for her. So there you have it, 12 celebrity couples where the guy is with a much older woman ranging from 40 years all the way down to 10. What's really interesting is that the relationships that failed weren't destroyed by the age gap itself. They fell apart because of cheating, ego clashes, incompatibility, power imbalances, or just people growing in completely different directions. The ones that actually worked, they succeeded because of genuine respect, shared values, and honestly just not caring what random people on the internet think about their relationship. Makes you wonder how many incredible connections people miss out on just because they're too focused on numbers on a birth certificate instead of actual real chemistry. So is age really just a number? I don't know. I think it's complicated. But what I do know is that love is messy and weird, and it definitely doesn't follow any kind of rule book. Let me know in the comments which couple shocked you the most, or whether you think any of these relationships are genuinely healthy or totally problematic. I genuinely want to hear what you think. And if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button for more celebrity deep dives, because trust me, we are just getting started with the tea. See you in the next one.